Well, greetings, everyone, from the floor of the Republican National Convention in St. Paul, Minnesota. A lot of focus, of course, over the last couple of days about the vice presidential selection. We, of course, heard the rousing speech by Sarah Palin, the governor of Alaska, in her acceptance speech. And it raises the question, again, of just how important is the vice president to the political process. Well, first of all, in some respects, the position used to be a joke. People kidded around that the vice president's job was A, to check on the president's health, and B, to attend the funerals of foreign dignitaries who died. Aside from that, the vice president didn't have very many formal duties. Well, a lot of that has really changed ever since Walter Mondale was brought on the ticket with Jimmy Carter in 1976 to not only shore up Carter's foreign policy experience, but also to give him a Washington insider to work with, someone who kind of knew who all the players were. And then, of course, George Bush's father was the vice president for Ronald Reagan, again, for pretty much the same reasons that Walter Mondale was, the strength of foreign policy experience and the fact that he knew so many people in Washington. Really, ever since those two vice presidents, the job has taken on a very serious role. I think it's fair to say that certainly the most influential vice president we've now had in history was Dick Cheney, but certainly Al Gore played a very important role in Bill Clinton's administration in terms of bringing Washington experience and certainly his environmental policy experience. Well, that brings us to 2008 and the importance of the candidates that were selected this year. Certainly Joe Biden, again, someone with deep foreign policy and Washington, D.C. experience to help shore up a perceived lack of experience by Barack Obama. So what does Sarah Palin bring to the ticket? Well, certainly energy policy, something she knows very much about, having to deal with the oil and natural gas industry in Alaska as a government official and also as a worker in that state. And so that is something that she brings to the table that could be very valuable for John McCain. She also obviously has some executive experience, having run the state for a couple of years now. Alaska has a $10 billion budget, 24,000 employees. Certainly that pales when you compare it to the entire federal budget and the entire federal employee workload, but still it is that kind of executive experience that McCain doesn't have. So they have to bring something to the table. They also have to bring some delegates or some electoral votes. Sarah Palin grew up in Idaho. That's 3 electoral votes. Alaska was considered by some to be up for grabs this year, but probably is secure in the Republican camp now that she is on the ticket. Obviously, Joe Biden brings Delaware. That's a small state too, but more importantly, he can perhaps help the Democratic ticket in Pennsylvania, where he was born. It is important that the vice president brings some electoral votes into the process. You'll recall John Edwards of North Carolina was not even able to win his own state for John Kerry and the ticket back in 2004. Had they done so, he would have been president, that is, Kerry, and Edwards would have been vice president. Back in 2000, you'll recall, Al Gore failed to carry his home state of Tennessee. Had he done so, he would have been president. No American president has ever been elected without winning his own state. So it's very important the president carries his own state and brings those electoral votes into the fold, and the vice president as well. It is for those reasons why the vice presidency has so much importance these days, heretofore not being the case in American politics, but certainly within the last 30 years or so, it has become a very critical selection. We'll have more throughout the week at markcurtismedia.com. For now, I'm Mark Curtis on the floor of the convention. Somebody just bumped the tripod. It's kind of crowded and busy down here. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and check out the blog all day long for updates.